Chapter 1102. More importantly, Yiqing Luo had seen this lady before. In the profound pagoda's test of strength, the second stage was the resentment stage of the gates of hell. He had seen this woman before. In the dreamland, Zhou Xian and Miss Feng were known as the Golden Boy and Jade Girl, a match made in heaven. That Lady Feng whose beauty was second only to Zhou Xian. He was actually a real existence. Moreover, with Zhou Xian, he was really so familiar with him. Zhou Xian did not like others to touch him. He would never come into contact with anyone else. But, however, he took the initiative to wrap his arms around the woman's shoulders. He allowed her to nestle in his arms. As Yiqing Luo looked on, her eyes faintly revealed a chilly glint. That position should belong to her alone. Apart from her, no other woman was allowed to approach that position. But in front of her, she allowed another woman to occupy the position that belonged to her. She was still the same woman who made her feel uneasy from the bottom of her heart. Their eyes met and they stared blankly at each other. No one broke the silence. That lady's beautiful eyes roamed around as it moved back and forth between Zhou Xian and Yiqing Luo for a moment. Pursing her red lips, her gentle eyes gradually dimmed. Then she smiled and pretended to be surprised. "Brother D, did you call me here to break this barrier to save these two?" That smile was devastatingly beautiful. She was like a pure and untainted fairy, holy and elegant. This must be Brother D's friend. They look like a good match. As she spoke, she covered her lips with her slender fingers and chuckled. There was a tinge of envy in her tone. To be able to go through thick and thin together in the most dangerous times, this kind of relationship, is so enviable. A good match. Share weal and woe? Envy? Yiqing Luo's ears were filled with that lady's words. She looked away and suddenly realized that she was still nestled in Zhou Wuxian's arms with her clothes in a mess. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. Was this a prank from the heavens? The timing of Zhou Xian's arrival was just that coincidental. Her clothes were disheveled and she was in the arms of another man. He held the beauty in his arms, watching her in another man's arms. How ironic. That lady was still saying something, but Yiqing Luo had no mood to continue listening. Perhaps it was because of the situation in the illusion she had a natural aversion to that woman. As she listened to the woman's voice, she felt an indescribable sense of irritation. The woman's words were obviously meant to sow discord between her and Zhou Xian. A woman's intuition was always very accurate. The love rival in the illusion had become a reality. What should she do to protect her feelings? Yiqing Luo took a deep breath, trying her best to calm her emotions down. He could not afford to lose his composure. Otherwise his love rival would laugh at him. The first thing he had to do was to maintain a distance from Zhou Wuxian and tidy up his clothes. The next step was to prepare for the attack of his love rival. No matter what, before Zhou Xian expressed his stance, this man belonged to her. Of course, even if he expressed his position, her man was still her man. She left Zhou Wuxian's embrace expressionlessly. Yiqing Luo slowly tidied up her clothes and combed her messy long hair before walking out from the corner. Zhou Wuxian remained silent. Yiqing Luo walked directly towards Zhou Xian. Her expression was calm as her pink lips curled into a sweet and bewitching smile. Finally, she stood 2 steps away from Zhou Xian. She raised her eyes and met his gaze. His gaze was deep, pitch black like the abyss. Just one look made her sink into a bottomless abyss, with a sliver of cold intent. Chapter 1103. That lady was stunned as her gorgeous face revealed a tinge of astonishment. She blinked her beautiful eyes blankly, showing an innocent look. Immediately she raised her eyes and looked at Zhou Xian. "Brother D, who is she?" While speaking, she still held on to Zhou Xian's hand and had not moved away. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, Zhou Xian then realized that the lady beside him was almost sticking onto his body. Zhou Xian's brows creased slightly as he stretched out his hand to pull Feng Ling away. A fair little hand was even faster than him. Slender 5 fingers directly clasped onto Feng Ling's arm. With a little strength, she directly pulled Feng Ling and pushed her to one side. Feng Ling cried out in pain from his grip. Her eyes instantly turned red as she cried out pitifully, "Brother D." Unexpectedly, her weak and pitiful look was like a weak little grass in the wind. She didn't get any response from Zhou Xian. At this moment, Dmo Xian's deep eyes were fixated on Yiqing Luo. As though in his world, there was only Yiqing Luo and only Yiqing Luo could be seen. Yiqing Luo was filled with disgust towards Feng Ling, naturally towards her pitiful look. She didn't have any sympathy. She directly walked to Dmo Xian's side and stood at the position where Feng Ling was standing earlier. Her lips curled as she gave Feng Ling an extremely enchanting and provocative smile. Immediately she turned back. Slender wrist hooked onto Dmo Xian's neck. Using a little strength, she pulled his head downwards. Dmo Xian cooperated by bending his waist. Yiqing Luo tiptoed and her pink lips covered his thin lips. Their lips touched and her wrist hooked even tighter. Her soft petite body fell into Dmo Xian's arms. She opened her mouth and aggressively left a bite mark on his lips. Dmo Xian's long eyelashes fluttered as he felt astonished by this little lady's action. Immediately his heart was filled with ecstasy. Because he saw Yiqing Luo snuggling into Zhu Xian's arms. The moment she took the initiative to kiss his lips, declaring her sovereignty, it all disappeared. Hugging her slender waist tightly, Dmo Xian immediately turned from passive to active. The tip of his tongue forcefully pried open her lips, her pearly white teeth. Just as he was about to enter, the fair little hand on his chest suddenly exerted force. Dmo Xian was caught off guard and was pushed away by the little woman. A silver line appeared at the corner of their lips. Yiqing Luo's cheeks blushed slightly, but her expression remained composed. He quirked his eyebrows and stared at Wind Chime's exquisite face, which alternated between red and green. As if she hadn't had enough, her pink tongue swept across her lips, sweeping the obvious silver strands into her mouth. His voice was hoarse and full of charm. "Tell me, who am I?" Windling staggered a few steps back as if she had suffered a huge blow. Her small face instantly turned pale, and her small body trembled violently. It was as if he was going to faint in the next second. Her eyes reddened and she trembled as she asked, "Brother Di?" Dmo Xian still did not look at Feng Ling. His gaze had always been fixated on Yiqing Luo. Looking at her enchanting smile and coquettishly licking her lips. That look of wanting more after tasting him made an inexplicable flame surge to his lower abdomen, causing his body to tense up. His little Luo heir, was she jealous? That was why she deliberately pushed him away when he wanted to taste the delicious taste of her own accord. Was she punishing him? He had to admit that this punishment was extremely torturous for him. The flame surging in his lower abdomen. As a man, a normal man, Dmo Xian naturally knew what was going on. This was the fire that little Luo heir had stirred up. Chapter 1104. Dmo Xian's disregard towards Feng Ling had pleased her. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at that man with gloomy eyes as she gave a light humph. At least he knew his place. If he still went to talk to Feng Ling or if he pretended that nothing had happened, pulled her along and introduced Feng Ling to her. She gave a kick and sent Dmo Xian up to the sky, shoulder to shoulder with the sun. Glancing at that petite little beauty, she looked like she was about to cry. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened as her soft body once again snuggled into Dmo Xian's arms. Her slender fingers caressed that mesmerizing face as she smiled like a flower. "Ah Xian, tell her, who am I?" Feng Ling's beautiful eyes revealed an astonished look. She staggered a few steps back again. Stepping on a piece of gravel, her body immediately fell backwards. She subconsciously stretched out her hand towards Dmo Xian. "Brother Di." However, that man's gaze, which was filled with warmth, didn't even notice her. That pair of peach blossom eyes which she loved so much, reflected Yiqing Luo's figure completely. In his eyes there was no room for anyone else. Bam! Feng Ling crashed against the uneven wall as the sharp gravel pierced through her skin. Fresh blood instantly stained her green dress. She held back her tears as she looked at Dmo Xian. Coincidentally, she met Dmo Xian's gaze. Feng Ling immediately burst into tears as she leaned against the wall and trembled. "Brother Di, it hurts." "Xiao Ling, she is the future mistress of the imperial palace." Feng Ling was stunned as she stared at Yiqing Luo in disbelief. The future mistress of the imperial palace? Which meant Dmo Xian was serious? Dmo Xian wanted to marry this woman? No. Impossible. Feng Ling didn't care about the pain and blood gushing out as she rushed towards Dmo Xian. Her hands tried to grab Dmo Xian's arm as she asked anxiously, "Brother Di, are you joking?" Grandma will not let an unknown lady become the mistress of the imperial palace. Her hand had yet to touch Zhou Xian's hand. Zhou Xian had already hugged the person in his arms, avoiding her touch. Taking half a step back, he stood firm. His gaze was dark and cold. He stared at wind chimes quietly, and his emotions were calm. "Youngling, I am the master of the palace." The ice-cold tone was like a silver needle that pierced into her heart. Feng Ling held her breath. Her swaying body went limp, and she knelt on one knee on the ground. His face was filled with a look of being unable to withstand the blow. "Xiaoling, you're a smart child. Don't try in vain to use your grandmother to pressure me." Finished speaking, he moved his gaze away. Feng Ling looked at him. Looking at the way he looked at Yiqing Luo, the obvious pampering and tender feelings in his eyes. This was an emotion she had never seen in his eyes before. It turned out that he also had such a gentle side to him. He was Zhou Xian, the almighty Zun. Even the sect masters of the 4 major sects and the rulers of the 4 continents had to bow and show him respect. But he allowed Yiqing Luo to humiliate him in public. He allowed Yiqing Luo to do whatever she wanted, taking the initiative to kiss him in front of everyone with a look of joy on his face. He allowed Yiqing Luo to leave a mark on his lips, with a delighted expression. He allowed, countless of them. She had been following behind Zhou Xian since young, and admired him for a whole 10 years. How could she not tell? Zhou Xian really loved Yiqing Luo. The kind of love that went deep into the bone. Based on what she had guarded for 10 years, became Yiqing Luo's man? The person Zhou Xian should fall in love with was her. Resentment and bursting possessiveness surged out from his eyes. Chapter 1105. Zhou Xian's attitude towards Feng Ling and the words, "She will be the future mistress of the imperial palace," had completely pleased him. Her long and narrow eyes were tinged with a smile. Leaning into his arms obediently, Yiqing Luo didn't struggle any further. His gaze moved past wind chimes and landed on Wolf Saint Technique, who was watching the show by the side. A hint of a smile appeared at the corners of his lips. "Wolf Saint Technique, have you watched enough?" The Wolf Saint Technique lowered his gaze and looked at the person in his arms. "Has seen enough?" Yiqing Qian bit her lower lip tightly. She expressed that this scene was not going according to the script she had in mind. When Zhou Xian saw Yiqing Luo nestled in another man's arms, shouldn't he be infuriated? And then fight with Zhu Wuxin? Or, when Yiqing Luo saw Zhou Xian carrying another lady, shouldn't she be infuriated? Then create a ruckus with Zhou Xian and force him to leave? Why did the relationship between the two of them seem to be even more intimate? Yiqing Luo didn't wait for Yiqing Qian's response as she smiled sweetly. "Since you've seen enough, then the debt between us should be settled." Yiqing Qian's face turned pale as she shrank into Wolf Saint Technique's arms. "How do you want to calculate?" Wolf Saint Magic's large palm caressed Yiqing Qian's back, silently comforting her. His malicious eyes looked towards Yiqing Luo. He secretly pondered the situation before him. Chu Wu Xin and Zhou Xian were apparently here to save Yiqing Luo. In other words, as long as Yiqing Luo opened her mouth, Chu Wuxin and Zhou Xian would definitely be seething with anger. "Ah Xian, what do you think I should do?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she hooked her arms around Zhou Xian's neck and asked with a smile. Zhou Xian gently stroked her hair as his deep black eyes gazed deeply at her. There was a smile at the corner of his mouth and there was a doting smile on his face. His little Luo'er was using her connections to intimidate others. However, he liked it. To be able to become Lil Luo'er's backer. He was extremely happy to let Lil Luo'er use her power to intimidate others. This was also the manifestation of little Luo'er's increasing reliance on him. This was a good sign. Zhou Xian couldn't help but pinch her pretty nose. Looking at her proud expression, it made him want to press her against the wall and kiss her lips. His gaze caught a glimpse of those scars on Yiqing Luo. His pitch-black eyes, which were like whirlpools, suddenly focused. His fingertips brushed past the red mark on her neck. His ice-cold voice echoed in the quiet tunnel. "If I hurt you, I'll destroy the Wolf Saint's forces. What do you think, little Luo'er?" Wolf Saint's faction. That was the sphere of influence of the Wolf Saint technique among the dark forces. When Lang Xingfa heard this, his expression changed greatly and he blurted out in shock. How could you? Everything related to the dark world was their secret. For example, the 4 great saint techniques. Outsiders had no way of knowing. However, Zhou Xian actually knew about Wolf Saint's forces. Did he know that it belonged to his territory? Could it be the dark forces also had Zhou Xian's men? This thought caused Lang Xingfa's face to turn increasingly ashen. He didn't want to stay any longer. Hugging Yi Qingqian tightly, he flew towards the entrance of the underground tunnel. Zhou Xian's lips twitched sinisterly as his purple robe fluttered. Profound qi was like a surging air wave swallowing the mountains and rivers. It instantly covered the entrance of the underground tunnel. Previously, it was Wolf Saint technique who forcefully stopped Yiqing Luo from leaving the underground tunnel. Now the cycle had reversed. Wolf Saint technique wanted to leave, but he couldn't. Chapter 1106. Destroy the Wolf Saint's forces. It was equivalent to sneaking into the Dark Forces and making the Wolf Sacred Force history in the territory of the Dark Forces. Such a thing was simply impossible. But Zhou Xian just played it down like that. That's what he would say. He must have full confidence that he could do it. This debt would be settled with the Wolf Saint's forces. She did not lose out. The Wolf Saint Law's eagle eyes were gloomy and frighteningly gloomy. Dizun, Fort Master, I'm sincerely trying to negotiate peace with you, yet you're being so overbearing. Do you really want to start a war in the Nirvana realm? Zhou Xian didn't say a word as he gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo, as though waiting for her response. It was the same for Chu Wuxing. Totally ignoring the presence of Zhou Xian, his icy cold eyes stared straight at Yiqing Luo. It seemed as though he only needed a single word from her. Even if it caused a war in the Nirvana realm, he would not hesitate to do so. His gaze was completely emotionless. His stare made Yiqing Luo shiver. Zhou Xian's brows creased slightly, and when he saw Zhu Wuxian's gaze, his expression suddenly turned gloomy. His arm slightly exerted strength as he clasped Yiqing Luo's waist tightly as he leaned close to her ear and gave a low laugh. Looks like even if I didn't come today, you would still be able to leave this place. Yiqing Luo wanted to cry but had no tears. Just now she had been so aggressive and jealous of him and Fengling, but now she immediately deflated. Her little hands wrapped tightly around Zhou Xian's sturdy waist and her little head rubbed against his chest. How can that be the same? He's just a stranger I don't know. You're my man. With that, she raised her head and rested her chin on his chest. She blinked her charming eyes and stared at his smooth chin. I'm in danger. Naturally, I hope that you will come and save me. Her voice wasn't too loud, but it was definitely not small. Especially in this narrow tunnel, it was especially clear to Zhu Wuxing's ears. The words, a stranger I don't know, struck him in the chest, one word at a time. There was a sharp pain. He collected his gaze as his cold eyes fixated on Yiqing Luo's gentle and tranquil side profile. She looked into Zhou Xian's eyes. When she looked at him, he looked so familiar. That gentleness, in his memories she had also given it to him. However, she couldn't remember. After having Zhou Xian in her memories, she was just a stranger I don't know? Zhu Wuxing twitched his stiff thin lips in disdain. He was still expressionless. However, there was a faint trace of, almost imperceptible pain in those ice-cold eyes. Standing there, he looked like a joke. He closed his eyes. The expression on Zhu Wuxing's face was still calm without any ripples. He took a step forward and directly walked past the two people who were arguing with each other and walked out of the tunnel. No one stopped him from leaving, until his figure completely disappeared at the entrance of the tunnel. The Wolf Saint Fa's heart finally calmed down a little. Zhu Wuxian gave up on avenging Yiqing Luo. Then there was only Zhou Xian left. At least it was better than offending Zhu Wuxing at the same time. With this in mind, the Wolf Saint technique gained some confidence. He looked at Zhou Xian and said calmly, Overlord, this saint will not hurt that little lass, but it's to settle the debt on behalf of my woman. He placed her down and lifted her head, revealing the wound at the bottom of her neck. Even though he had applied ointment to stop the bleeding and the pain. But that pinch mark where the dagger had sliced the flesh was extremely obvious. Comparing it to Yiqing Luo's injury, she had merely suffered some superficial injuries. Chapter 1107. All in all, Xianxia's injury was obviously more serious. Luo couldn't help but laughed out loud. You settle the scores for your woman, my man settle the scores for me, this is very fair, how are you being overbearing? Wolf Saint Fa was speechless. The era of relying on one's father was over. What she needed now was her own man. Luo felt that the feeling of hugging her man's thigh was not bad at all. At least when she saw Wolf Saint Fa's expression. She felt great. Luo raised a finger and pointed at Xian, smiling extremely innocently. The most important point is that she kidnapped my brother. She couldn't bear to hurt her brother. But under Xian's incitement, Ling hurt him to that state. Talking about settling the scores. Did he have the right to settle the scores with her? Luo's eyes suddenly sunk as a chilly intent flowed from the bottom of her eyes. With a flip of her palm, a strong surge of profound qi surged into her palm. Zzz, the sound of electric current scuttled in Luo's palm. That electric current shone brightly and dimly, illuminating the entire tunnel. Gradually it formed into a ball shape. Zhou Xian stared at that electric current ball as his pupils congealed. The shock in his eyes couldn't be concealed. Thunderclap arts. 3 words blurted out. Luo was still creating the thunderclap when she heard Zhou Xian's voice. She glanced sideways and looked at him. What's the matter? Zhou Xian remained silent for a moment as he raised his hand to rub her hair. His thin lips slowly curled upwards. The power of the thunderclap arts is extremely powerful and is divided into 10 levels. If the thunderclap arts is cultivated to the 10th level, 1 thunderclap arts is enough to destroy an entire city. Luo's eyes widened. Thunderclap arts actually had such a powerful destructive power? Why hadn't old man Song mentioned it to her? Little Luo, always gives me a surprise. Zhou Xian bent down and inched closer to her ear as he said in a low voice. But if there's no emergency, try not to use the thunderclap arts. Luo narrowed her eyes. His words reminded her of Wolf Saint Fa's fervent gaze when he saw the thunderclap arts. He even used such despicable methods to force her to reveal the whereabouts of the thunderclap incantation. He then remembered that he had used teleportation to attract the attention of the ghost doctor and god pirate. Could it be that the reward for clearing the purgatory tower, were they actually secret arts that had been passed down for a long time? However, that was indeed the case. Whether it was teleportation or the thunderclap incantation. If outsiders were to find out about the power of these 2 secret techniques, it would probably stir up the entire Nirvana realm and crazily plunder the manuals of these 2 secret techniques. Just as she was deep in thought, the Wolf Saint technique suddenly formed a barrier for himself. Shortly after, his 2 palms split open an oppressive aura, causing the ground to be filled with gravel. Zhou Xian instinctively protected Luo. Using his own body, he helped Luo to block those gravel attacks. Take this opportunity. Wolf Saint Dharma hugged Xian tightly and rushed towards the entrance. Trying to escape? Luo's eyes turned cold. The pain that Xiaoyu had suffered has yet to be repaid. None of you can think of leaving. The gravel scattered and Luo swiftly pushed Zhou Xian away. The lightning ball in her hand was like a falling lightning, breaking through the air. A sizzling sound was heard, accompanied by the sound of breaking through the air. The speed was extremely fast and in just a blink of an eye, it had already attacked Wolf Saint Dharma. Ah! A miserable shriek was heard. A petite figure was coincidentally struck by that lightning ball. The electric current flowed through the petite girl's body. Boom! A loud explosion was heard. The electric current exploded and that petite figure was instantly blasted into pieces. Chapter 1108. Zhou Xian's first reaction was to pull Luo into his arms. His broad body enveloped her completely in his embrace, leaving no gap between them. As for wind chimes, she did not manage to escape in time. Her flesh exploded and her body was covered in blood. There was a lot of minced meat that hit her face directly. The strong smell of blood made her stomach churn. Holding on to the wall, she couldn't help but vomit. The sound of blood splattering on the ground gradually subsided. Zhou Xian then slowly released Luo's slender waist. The pungent smell in the air and the blood and minced meat all over the ground indicated that the scene earlier was not an illusion. She looked up at the entrance of the tunnel. There was no sign of Wolf Saint Law. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, her long curly eyelashes moved. Let them escape again. She didn't expect Yiqing Qian to be so ruthless. Just now, at the moment when her electric ball was about to hit Wolf Saint Law. Nestled in Wolf Saint Law's arms, Yiqing Qian suddenly released her profound qi and sucked Yiqing Ling into her hands. Immediately, she threw Yiqing Ling towards the direction of the electric ball without hesitation. Although the first level of the thunderclap technique could only create a fist-sized electric ball. But the power of this electric ball was enough to make this tunnel and this abandoned temple collapse. The electric ball hit Wolf Saint Law. Such a powerful and arrogant man, it wouldn't take his life, but it could restrict his movements. Not to mention, now that she had become an ordinary human, she could only use the jade flute to control the magical beasts. The electric ball's power fell on Yiqing Ling's flesh and blood. Yiqing Ling had no ability to resist. Directly turned into minced meat. So what if he ran away? Zhou Xian caressed the person in his arms disapprovingly. What I said earlier was not a joke. That sentence. Yiqing Luo looked up and looked into his deep inky eyes. Instantly understood. He said to destroy Wolf Saint's forces. This sentence was not a joke. He really wanted to destroy Wolf Saint's forces in the dark forces? Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips and snuggled into his chest. Will it be dangerous? I won't. He smiled reassuringly. With you around, I can't bear to put myself in danger. This sentence, word by word, struck her heart heavily. This man, he purposely stabbed her with his words. He was blaming her for being alone in danger. Yiqing Luo remained silent for a moment and obediently rubbed her face against him. I'm sorry, Xian, there won't be a next time. Zhou Xian lowered his eyes and looked at the person in his arms. That extremely tender face was so obedient that it made his heart ache. After staring at her for a while, he held her face and gently kissed her lips. I don't believe this sentence. Ugh. Before she could finish her sentence, she was swallowed whole by him. Yiqing Luo's petite body turned soft as she was kissed senseless. Alright, she didn't believe that there wouldn't be a next time either. When Yiqing Luo was about to suffocate from the kiss, Zhou Xian finally released her in satisfaction. His smooth jaw slowly rested on her shoulder. His warm breath caressed her ears. Seeing the little woman's ears turning red, he couldn't help but leaned forward and kissed her. His low and hoarse voice was filled with desire that made one blush. Little Luo, looks like I have to leave a mark on you so that I can grasp your direction anytime and anywhere. Yiqing Luo's eyes were like silk as she coquettishly stared at him and pouted her little mouth in a coquettish manner. Pervert. Chapter 1109. A single voice could make her face flush red and her body go limp. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as her little hand pushed his chest. Xiao, you should be back at West Lawn Square. Everyone is still waiting for me to return. Stop fooling around. Today's first round they won't have any problems. Zhou Xian's long arm locked her slender waist and refused to let go. Yiqing Luo's cheeks blushed slightly. We still have to rush back. Who knows what methods the dark forces will use. Zhou Xian still refused to let go. Before this, you'd better think about how you're going to explain to me about the matter between you and Zhu Wuxia. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips and turned her little face to the side. Aren't you still with other women? So we need time to be alone. Zhou Xian's thin lips curled up, smiling like a sly fox. Yiqing Luo pondered for a moment and continued to struggle. You're the master of the main courtyard. If you don't appear at the competition venue for a long time, it will make people suspicious. Don't worry, I have my ways. Zhou Xian's slender fingers pressed against her lips. You're evading like this, I'm starting to suspect if you and Zhu Wuxia are. No. Yiqing Luo stared at him furiously with a, if you dare to continue speaking, I'll bite you to death look on her face. She gave a light snort and slapped away Zhou Xian's palm. She pointed to the little kitten who had already shrunk to the size of a palm and Chi-Chi who was cozily nesting in the enchantment. Break the enchantment and leave this place first. The room was filled with corpses and the smell of blood was strong. If she stayed here any longer, her sense of smell was going to stop working. Zhou Xian caught her mischievous little hand and shot a glance at the woman who was leaning against the wall while vomiting. He spoke in a calm voice. Xiaoling, undo that enchantment. Fengling's face was pale and her eyes were red. Because he was heartbroken. It was also because he had vomited too hard just now. Her beautiful eyes were misty with tears. If an ordinary person saw her like this, their heart would definitely clench, and they wouldn't bear to see such a sad expression on her face. However, she was facing a Yiqing Luo who hated her to the core. One was Zhou Xian who did not put her in his heart. Even though Wenqing cried her heart out. Perhaps the two of them would not even say a word of comfort. Just like now, even though Fengling was in a sorry state with Yi Qingling's blood and flesh stuck on her body looking pitiful, Zhou Xian was still emotionless as he stated his request. To Zhou Xian, he asked Fengling to rush over from the imperial palace. It was all for the sake of sensing the powerful barrier of the West Wave continent and breaking it. It was that simple. Brother D. Fengling looked at Zhou Xian in disbelief. She was already in such a sorry state and he didn't even say anything to comfort her? And even ordered her to save Yiqing Luo's war pet? Why are you still in a daze? Zhou Xian didn't seem to notice Fengling's emotions. Of course, other than Yiqing Luo's emotions. The others had nothing to do with him. Fengling clenched her fists and raised her face stubbornly. She stared at him with tearful eyes. Brother D, aren't you being too cruel? Puchi. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but burst out laughing. Seeing that both of their targets were on her, her lips curled as her finger poked Zhou Xian's chest and teased. Did you hear that little beauty said you're cruel? Zhou Xian narrowed his long and narrow peach blossom eyes as he looked at Fengling with his deep black eyes. An oppressive deterrent was slowly released from his body. Chapter 11:10. Big teardrops rolled down from the corner of Fengling's eyes. Her petite body trembled as she leaned against the wall to barely support herself. Why? Fengling pursed her red lips as tears blurred her vision. Zhou Xian frowned as his brows revealed an obvious impatience. If it wasn't for the fact that he was in a hurry to find Yi Fengyu's whereabouts so that Yiqing Luo could participate in the inter-class competition in peace, he wouldn't have specially called Fengling over. If it wasn't for the fact that Fengling's persistence towards him had not been extinguished over time. Even if he exhausted 3 levels of profound energy, he wouldn't call Fengling over. It wasn't that he couldn't sense or break the enchantment barrier by searching for the dark force's sacred arts. He just needed some time. It needed to consume his own profound energy. He was worried that the dark forces would make use of Yi Fengyu to threaten Yiqing Luo. Therefore he specially called Fengling, who was extremely proficient in enchantment barriers and had the innate talent to sense the existence of enchantment barriers. It turned out that his worries were right. But he would rather use 3 levels of profound energy to deal with Fengling. Zhou Xian couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with Fengling. He loosened his arm around Yiqing Luo's slender waist and whispered gently, "Wait for me." After that he walked towards Chi-Chi's direction. Standing in front of Chi-Chi, his eyes narrowed as he moved his palm to condense profound chi to break the enchantment barrier. Behind him a fluorescent light flashed. That fluorescent light fell on the enchantment barrier trapping Chi-Chi. The transparent barrier emitted a dazzling light. Once, twice. The enchantment broke and the little fellow who was as white as a cat suddenly leapt up and stepped on Zhou Xian's shoulder. Its furry little tail swept across Zhou Xian's face. When did you fall in love with this kind of battle pet? Fengling opened her palm and that fluorescent light that broke the enchantment barrier returned to her palm. Finally, it landed on a sparkling and translucent jade stone in her palm. When the fluorescent light completely subsided, Fengling slowly closed her palm and placed the jade stone against her chest. When she opened her hands again, the jade stone had disappeared. Zhou Xian gently stroked the little cat on his shoulder and withdrew his profound energy as he turned towards Yiqing Luo's direction. As he turned, his cold voice rang indifferently. Because this is her battle pet. Because it belonged to Yiqing Luo, that was why he liked it. Because Yiqing Luo liked it, so he liked it too. Windling was stunned on the spot. Her hands hung limply by her sides. In her mind, she recalled that many years ago, when she was undergoing special training arranged by her grandmother, she had caught an extremely cute magical beast. It was a fox beast. It had a sharp mouth and long evil eyes. No matter how she coaxed it, the fox beast ignored her. Just like the unapproachable Zhou Xian. Little Feng Ling excitedly brought the fox beast and rushed into the meeting hall, interrupting Zhou Xian and Grandma's discussion about the imperial palace. However, she was mercilessly pushed away by him. In front of Grandma, he said indifferently, "I hate this kind of thing." Yes, he hated beasts and battle pets. Even after that he had contracted Little Nine. He also did not get too close to Little Nine. But now, it was a tiger beast and a weak-looking tiger cub. She stepped on his shoulder with a big stab. He did not get angry. Instead he smiled gently. He was smiling so gently at a battle pet. But he was so cold to her. He did not hate beasts or battle pets. He only hated her. Feng Ling's thoughts drifted far away. She saw the man whom she had been infatuated with for 10 years was already holding another woman and walking towards the entrance of the tunnel. Chapter 11:11. Wind Chimes was delighted. He still had her in his heart. He would not abandon her like this. A smile blossomed at the corner of his mouth. Because he stopped in his tracks, all the grievances from before vanished into thin air. She quickly jogged towards Zhou Xian's direction. "Brother D, I knew you. Go back to the palace by yourself or Ah Feng will send you back." Zhou Xian looked at her indifferently without a trace of emotion in his eyes. Saying that, he had already turned around and hugged Yiqing Luo as they walked out of the tunnel. A tiger's roar cut through the sky. In the blink of an eye, the surroundings fell into a dead silence. As she stood in the tunnel that had long since been reduced to ruins, corpses, blood and flesh, Wind Chimes suddenly felt very cold. That kind of bone-chilling, heart-wrenching cold. Unable to bear it, she hugged herself and squatted down, trembling. He didn't know how long he had been sitting there. Then he heard the faint sound of footsteps. She looked up happily. "Brother D." His smile froze on his face. The person opposite her revealed a sinister smile. "Miss Feng, why are you crying so sadly? Dizun really doesn't know how to take care of women." Feng Ling's beautiful eyes froze. She raised her hand and wiped away the tears at the corners of her eyes. She immediately stood up and looked at the person in front of her warily. "What do you want to do?" The man's smile grew colder. "Of course I'm here to help you." "Help me?" Wind Chimes snorted coldly. "Do people from the underground know how to help others?" The person in front of him was none other than the wolf Saint Law who had left and returned. He squinted his eagle eyes as if he could see through people's hearts. He stared into Feng Ling's eyes and said, "Don't you want to be the venerable sovereign?" Feng Ling's expression changed. "What do you mean?" "Miss Feng is smart, you should understand what I mean." The wolf saint technique laughed in a profound manner. "How about it, is Miss Feng interested in cooperating with this saint technique?" Chi-Chi's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had already stopped in front of the dormitory. The empty old house was quiet. It was time for the inter-class competition. Everyone had already rushed to Shilon Square to watch the competition. The two of them entered Yiqing Luo's room but didn't meet anyone. Knowing what to do, Chi-Chi entered the pet space on its own and shut off all sight and hearing. It was a tiger. It had no interest in dog food at all. The minute they entered the room, Yiqing Luo was pressed against the table by Zhou Xian. He pinched her chin and bit down harshly on her lips. "Lil Luo, it's just the two of us now. If you confess, you'll be lenient. If you resist, you'll be strict." His long and narrow peach blossom eyes shone brightly. It dazzled Yiqing Luo for a moment. She blinked her eyes and wrapped her arms around his neck. Her lips curled up. "I should be the one saying that." Their eyes met and the temperature inexplicably rose. His lips covered hers again. The warm touch and the overbearing and powerful strength locked her in place. Her cheeks were flushed red. Her delicate body softened and turned into water. Before she knew it, he had already carried her onto the mahogany table and kissed her. It was forceful and domineering. As though he was going to swallow her up. After a long while looking at her flushed face, Zhou Xian finally stopped. His hoarse voice whispered softly beside her ear. "She's called Feng Ling, the granddaughter of the Imperial Palace's granny. She has been by my side since young. Yo childhood sweethearts. Both of you are young and innocent." Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes as she said in a sour tone. Chapter 11-12. Aha. Yiqing Luo scoffed arrogantly. But she leaned into Dmo Xian's embrace and changed her position. Dmo Xian raised his hand and said in all seriousness, I swear I have absolutely no intentions towards her. Yiqing Luo continued to snort and continued to act tsundra. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with adoration. He loved her delicate look. He couldn't help but lower his head and kiss her red and swollen lips. He pressed his forehead against hers and said in a low voice, If you don't believe me, you can check my body to see if there are any traces of her. His tone was filled with a naughty smile, and his shimmering peach blossom eyes were also flashing with an evil luster. Yiqing Luo instantly blushed as she gritted her teeth and spat out 2 words, No. Use it. Of course she knew that Dmo Xian had no interest in Feng Ling. If she had any thoughts she wouldn't be the one acting like a tsundra right now. She simply wanted to be tsundra. Who told him to hold Wind Chime's shoulders when they were in the tunnel and even let Wind Chimes hug his waist. His embrace could only belong to her alone. In my place there's only you. As though he had seen through her thoughts, Dmo Xian narrowed his peach blossom eyes and said in a low voice. That low and hoarse voice sounded extremely serious. His deep pitch-black eyes stared at her without blinking. Yiqing Luo's little face blushed as she subconsciously lowered her eyes and turned her head away. Her lower jaw was held by his slender fingers, forcing her to meet his gaze. At that time when she fell I just helped her up. Dmo Xian patiently explained, When I was helping her up, I saw you in Zhou Xian's arms with your clothes disheveled. He paused for a moment. He felt the little woman in his arms stiffen. The corners of his lips curled into a sinister smile. At that time, did you think I was still in the mood to pay attention to Xiaoling? Seeing Yiqing Luo's clothes in a mess, nestled in Zhou Xian's arms, looked so intimate and ambiguous. Even though deep in his heart he knew that Yiqing Luo and Zhou Xian could not possibly have any special relationship. However, when he saw that scene he still could not suppress the fury in his heart. The wind chimes were not important so he did not pay attention to them at all. His mind was filled with the scene of Yiqing Luo and Zhou Xian hugging intimately. Yiqing Luo still maintained her arrogance as she snorted. It was just a verbal tsundra. However, her actions revealed her current mood. She struggled free from the restraint of his fingers and rubbed her blushed little face against Dmo Xian's chest as her arms wrapped tightly around Dmo Xian's waist. The more Dmo Xian looked at her tsundra look, the happier he was. Yes, his little Luoer's arrogant look only belonged to him alone. Dmo Xian tightened her arms and her petite body was completely plastered onto his body. Between the two of them, there were only 2 layers of clothes that were not too thick. Yiqing Luo's soft chest pressed against his sturdy chest. It was very soft to the touch. Dmo Xian suddenly recalled the last time after the battle in King Ling's tomb, when he helped Yiqing Luo apply medicine. He saw everything about Yiqing Luo. Actually his little Luo had everything she needed. This size was just enough for him to control with one hand. But the moment he thought of this his lower abdomen tightened. Dmo Xian's pupils contracted as he increased his strength once again. Ugh! Yiqing Luo moaned in pain as her slender brows creased as her little hand pushed his chest. Ah Xian, you're hurting me. Her words had just ended when she was pressed onto the red wooden table. The man's scorching hot body was tightly plastered onto hers. Chapter 11-13. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo's breathing suddenly stopped as her little hand blocked in between the both of them. A rich man's breath encircled Yiqing Luo's body. Her entire body turned soft as her little hand's resistance was totally useless. But moments later her little hand was restrained by Dmo Xian. The man's hot and wet kiss landed harshly on her lips. Her breath seemed to be sucked away, making her feel numb as though she was electrocuted. Yiqing Luo's petite body was trembling. Even if she had never eaten pork, she had seen a pig run. Moreover, this wasn't the first time Dmo Xian had lost control. She naturally understood what that asterisk on her abdomen represented. Her cheeks turned even redder from embarrassment. A man's desire really came at the drop of a hat. It was no wonder that people often said that men used their lower body to think about life. This wasn't the first time she stopped Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo didn't know how long a man could hold it in. She was after all a 21st generation person, and since she had already set her mind on Zhou Xian, she would definitely follow him for the rest of her life. Even if she allowed things to happen and let nature take its course, that was a normal thing. But she retracted her gaze as she hid away her flustered and indulged heart. Her little hand pushed against his chest. At this moment she couldn't let things develop naturally, because her brothers were still sweating and competing in the arena. How could she possibly be at ease with Zhou Xian here? Her motive for coming here was to resolve the mutual misunderstanding with Zhou Xian. Xian calmed down. Just as his lips were about to press against hers again, Yiqing Luo opened her mouth and bit his thin lips harshly. Zhou Xian loosened his grip as he propped himself up. His eyes were filled with passion as deep as the water. He stared at her as his movements stopped, but his body was still pressing on her in an overbearing manner. With Zhou Xian. It's a misunderstanding. Yiqing Luo tried her best to change the topic as her breathing was hurried and her little face was flushed red, not daring to look at him. That soft and charming little voice was trembling. After the deep kiss, it was mixed with a seductive voice. Under Zhou Xian's tranquil peach blossom eyes which made one sink into it. Yiqing Luo finally managed to concisely explain how Wolf Saint Method found out about the Thunderclap manual and how he used despicable methods to force her, and how she was saved by Zhou Xian. In the end she looked at him helplessly with her slightly moist eyes. I stuffed them into his arms because I wanted to use his body to gather my clothes first. Who knew that you would be so coincidental and come here at the right time? Zhou Xian felt his lower abdomen tightening. His lil lure, just by showing such an expression he could not control his desire. Towards Lil Luo he seemed to have no self-control at all. He knew the reason why Lil Luo Air was rejecting him now. Under such circumstances, even if he couldn't restrain himself, he wouldn't go all the way. You really don't know Zhou Xian? Zhou Xian lowered his head as he followed along with her topic. Yiqing Luo's long eyelashes fluttered. I really don't know him. Qing Luo's character. Zhou. Zhou Xian remained silent for a long while before he spoke in a low voice. Even if it's a subordinate who had followed him through life and death for a few years at the critical juncture, he would not hesitate to abandon them. Humans are not plants, how can they be emotionless? Even for him. Facing the 4 protectors who had followed him for many years and risked their lives for him several times. He would at least say a few words of concern. He would never give up their lives. But Zhu Wuxin could. For someone like Zhu Wuxin there was no one else in his life other than himself. Yet he was so concerned about Yiqing Luo. Chapter 11-14. During the World Mercenary Group's first mission. If it wasn't for Zhou Xian, Yiqing Luo wouldn't be able to successfully bring the exquisite pagoda out of Death God Castle. It was totally impossible. Those youngsters from the World Mercenary Group were able to leave unscathed. Zhou Xian had intentionally let them pass. Whereas this time round Yiqing Luo was in danger and Zhou Xian didn't hesitate to go against the dark forces. Based on Zhou Xian's character, how could he possibly harm his own benefits for others? To push himself into a dangerous situation? But Yiqing Luo said that she didn't know Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian naturally believed Yiqing Luo's words. But he didn't understand that Zhou Xian's performance. Apparently he knew Yiqing Luo and there was some past between them. Had Zhou Xian recognized the wrong person? Thinking of this, Zhou Xian's black eyes slowly narrowed. You don't believe me? Seeing Zhou Xian's silence, Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she stared at him unhappily. Zhou Xian suddenly held her waist tightly. The other hand, his broad palm, followed along her waist and slowly moved upwards. She could clearly feel the scorching temperature through her thin clothes. 5 fingers covered the loins. A pinch. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled. He bent down and bit her earlobe. A deep magnetic voice with a hint of anger rang by the side of her ear. You're my woman, if I don't believe you, who should I believe? Yiqing Luo's little hand frantically pressed his hand which was moving around the loins as she spoke in a trembling voice. I'm wrong, I know you believe me. What's wrong? Zhou Xian's slender legs slightly exerted force as he pushed open the little woman's tightly shut legs. His thin lips curled upwards, looking devilishly alluring. Yiqing Luo's body froze. If this went on, be careful of the second mishap. If this went on, the one who would suffer would be him. Xian. Yiqing Luo's gentle voice was extremely soft. Are you sure you want to use this position to talk to me? Dmo Xian's brows rose slightly as he gave an evil cold smile. Why? I'm only in charge of stirring up the fire, not in charge of extinguishing it. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her eyes curved, revealing a teasing look. Indeed, the man on her body stiffened. After several breaths of silence, he stiffly propped himself up and moved away. His face, which had a devilish smile on it, instantly turned ashen. Good. Very good. This was little Luo. She knew how to trick him. Yiqing Luo, who had escaped from Dmo Xian's restraints, swiftly bent her waist and retreated a few steps away from him. She blinked her long curly eyelashes and said, Xian, the misunderstanding has been explained. It's time to go to the West Lawn Square. He looked as innocent as he could be. Dmo Xian lowered his eyes and looked at the lower abdomen. The indescribable place. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sinister smile. The next moment, Yiqing Luo's body felt light as she fell into Dmo Xian's arms once again. She didn't even have time to react. In her eyes filled with ridicule, Dmo Xian's peerlessly handsome face was magnified. Xian, his aggressive gaze was scorching. That naked gaze seemed to be looking at her naked body. Suddenly he bowed his head. He nibbled on her swollen lips. He bit down hard. Just like how she had bitten him. An obvious bite mark was left. Yiqing Luo cried out in pain as she raised her fist and hammered on his chest. The man released her slender waist at the right time. His half-squinted peach blossom eyes outlined a devilish charming arc. He laughed lightly as he gazed at Yiqing Luo's eyes, which were like glistening gems, its luster bright. His thin lips parted as he said word by word, I'll owe you this time next time. Extinguish the fire, I'll do it. Chapter 11:15. Fine. This was very beastly. Yiqing Luo admitted defeat. She blushed as she pushed Dmo Xian away and left the room without looking back. Dmo Xian lowered his head as his eyes were filled with adoration. He could only wait for the next time. He had just taken a step and was about to catch up with Yiqing Luo's footsteps to head to the West Continent with her to support the students of Devil class. His footsteps just stepped out of the room. The wind blew and brought along a trace of strange sound. His perceptive power was instantly released. At the same time, Yiqing Luo, who had just walked out of the room, flashed back to Dmo Xian's side. The blush on her face had long faded. Right now her expression was grave as her brows knitted tightly as she looked into Dmo Xian's eyes. From the other party's eyes she confirmed her own perception. There were people. And there were many of them, and their profound grades were not low. The entire dormitory was filled with an extremely dangerous atmosphere. West Continent Public Square. The Heavenly Academy's interclass competition was still ongoing. The first round of the preliminary round was not for all the students to rush onto the arena. Instead, it was done by drawing lots. Each class would send out 10 people as a team, and according to the results of the drawing lots, the 10-people team would represent their class and compete against the other 10-people team. In other words, the 7 classes would be divided into 7 teams of 10 people. Through drawing lots to decide which class would be matched against which class. The winning team of 10 people would represent their class and enter the next round. In previous years, the Heavenly Academy's interclass competition was 6 classes and 6 teams, which were easy to allocate. This year there was an addition of Devil class. 7 classes, 7 teams of 10 people. Which meant that there was an additional team which could not be allocated to an opponent. For this interclass competition, there were many external forces and representatives from various schools. In order to show his concern for the waste class, the director had instructed Yun Duan. Yun Duan represented the director to express preferential treatment for Devil class. The first round of drawing lots would be a break for Devil class. After the 6 classes had competed, the winning 3 teams of 10 people plus Devil class would draw lots for the showdown. The class which won the last 10-people team could skip the semi-finals and enter the finals. Because of this, today's competition was extremely important. Because the competition was divided into 3 days. Within these 3 days, they had to participate in the competition every day. How much profound energy would be depleted? Without the miraculous elixirs given by the family, the profound Jade Heart's energy could not be replenished. But, if he won today's match, he would directly enter the finals. This also meant that he did not need to participate in the semi-finals tomorrow. This also meant that the class that won today could recuperate and build up their strength, waiting for the finals on the third day. After explaining the rules, Cloud was ready to start. Long Yunzhan took a step forward at this moment. His azure blue eyes looked emotionlessly at Yun Duan. Elder Yun Duan, I'm Long Yunzhan, the class monitor of the Devil class. On behalf of the Devil class, I sincerely thank the Dean and the Elders for their concern towards the Devil class. Her clear and cold voice spread out with profound energy. Cloud's announcement of the start of the match was swallowed back. He looked at Long Yunzhan and frowned slightly. He didn't understand what the Devil class was trying to do. Yun Xiang's temper flared up as he said unhappily, "Since you're grateful, then be obedient and return to your Devil class's waiting area. Give up the arena to the class that's about to compete." Chapter 11:16. Once he said that, the entire audience was in an uproar. Many powerhouses started to complain about how Devil class did not know what's good for them. As for Low Profound Class 1 and Intermediate Profound Class 2, there were students who started to complain on the spot. The Dean sympathizes with your trashy class, so that you won't have to waste the rare opportunity to participate in the inter-class competition. He wants you to stay in this arena a little longer, so he specially gave you special treatment. You actually dare to refuse? Trash class is trash class, even their intelligence is so touching. The crowd was in an uproar. When Yun Duan heard that, he was stunned for a moment. Maybe he could not understand why Devil class would reject such a good treatment. Coincidentally, from the direction of Intermediate Profound Class 2, a scornful voice came. "What's there to guess? Just based on the looks of Devil class's trash, they are obviously afraid of receiving special treatment, but in the end they will still be easily defeated, losing all their face." With that said, the students from each class nodded their heads in realization, expressing their agreement. Receiving special treatment but still being defeated by a team that had gone through a competition was utterly defeated. It was indeed quite embarrassing. Student Shangguan is still smart, seeing through the nature of Devil class with one look. Devil class coming to participate in the inter-class competition is already a joke. Seeing them participate in the competition, it's simply making us laugh our teeth off. That's right, if this kind of preferential treatment was given to our class, the ones who could enter the finals today would definitely be our class. In the class there were all kinds of complaints, all kinds of discussions, sparse. Suddenly they heard Long Yunzhan's ice-cold voice, easily suppressing the clamor. "Then I'll give it to your class." A few light words, said without any emotion. That person was stunned, his face full of astonishment. After a while he reacted. Long Yunzhan was answering his own words. This person happened to be one of the students from Low Profound Class 1. "You're for real?" Low Profound Class 1 naturally wanted this preferential treatment. Other than Devil class, their class was the worst class in the entire academy. If they had this preferential treatment, entering the semi-finals shouldn't be a problem. At least they wouldn't be eliminated in one match, and at least they could save their face. Long Yunzhan did not reply to that student. Instead he raised his cold blue eyes and looked at Yun Duan indifferently. "Elder Yun Duan, thank you for your kindness. I represent the Devil class and am willing to hand over the preferential treatment given by the academy to that class." His tone was cold and emotionless. However, his attitude was sincere and serious. Yun Duan looked at the dean. After seeing the dean nod his head slightly, he slowly turned his head. The purpose of the inter-class competition is to understand the overall standard of each class and the individual strength of the students. Since this is the Devil class's own decision, the academy will naturally respect the Devil class's choice. This preferential treatment will be given to the Low Profound Class 1. After the announcement, the other students had no objections. The competition had officially begun. The first round of drawing lots. Low Profound Class 2 versus War Devil class. The second round of drawing lots. Intermediate Profound Class 2 against High Profound Class 1. The third round of drawing lots. High Profound Class 2 versus Intermediate Class 1. Looking at the wooden stick in his hand, it matched the wooden stick in Devil Class's hand. The students of Low Profound Class 2 revealed a look of joy. Without Low Profound Class 1 they would be at the bottom of the class. If they were to go against Intermediate Profound Class or High Profound Class, they would definitely lose. But the students of Low Profound Class 2 looked at Devil Class's side. Although they looked to be in high spirits, it was obvious that after standing for so long, the students were swaying. Chapter 11-17. Without Yiqing Luo in the Devil Class they were simply a bunch of trash. They were already trash and yesterday they were ambushed and suffered a serious injury. Today they forced themselves to participate in the competition and it had only been half an hour and they couldn't even stand properly, yet they still wanted to participate in the competition? The students from the Low Profound Class 2 all sneered in disdain. And in the Low Profound Class 2, Tao Zi knitted her brows in worry. The news of Yi Fengyu being kidnapped in the dormitory was known to the entire school. And today Yiqing Luo also disappeared. Was she looking for Yi Fengyu? Or was she kidnapped like Yi Fengyu? This thought flashed past. She shook her head. Impossible. If Yiqing Luo was really kidnapped, the students from Devil Class would not be so calm in the competition. Yiqing Luo, she should have gotten news of Yi Fengyu and rushed over early in the morning. Hopefully, Qing Luo would be safe and come back earlier. Low Profound Class 2's class monitor had already begun to pick 10 students to form a 10-man team. When passing by Tao Tao, the class monitor paused for a moment but still brushed past her. Although they knew that Tao Tao was the group leader of the 3000 Peach Blossom and her ability was considered above average in the Low Profound Class 2. But Tao Tao and Devil Class's Yiqing Luo's relationship seemed to be not bad. In order to avoid any accidents, the class monitor still didn't choose Tao Tao. The first round of the competition began. All the students returned to the waiting area. Long Yunzhan chose a few students who were below average in the Devil Class. 8 boys and 2 girls. And I Ra Pan and Dan Baishi were among them. The moment the gong was sounded, the Low Profound Class 2's attack was already coming. The Devil Class students panicked and screamed. Each of them were like ants on a hot pan fleeing in all directions. There wasn't any intention to cooperate with their comrades. The entire arena was filled with the Low Profound Class 2 students chasing after them. The Devil Class students covered their heads and fled. Wails and screams were heard incessantly. The scene looked extremely lively. It attracted a lot of people below and kept laughing. This situation lasted for about half an incense stick of time. The Low Profound Class 2 students were out of breath from the chase. Some students stopped, pointed at the escaping Devil Class students and ridiculed in disdain. A bunch of cowardly turtles. Don't run if you have the ability. Why are you running? Look at your cowards. Still want to participate in the competition? What a disgrace. I thought that with Yiqing Luo you would be able to ascend to the heavens. Trash is trash. Watch us beat you bunch of trash into a pulp. However, the students of the Devil Class totally ignored their curses. He was still screaming at the top of his voice as he fled. Mocking laughter and screams filled the air. It was extremely lively. Gradually, the high-level profound practitioners who were spectating the battle noticed that something was wrong as they laughed and laughed. The awkwardness on the faces of the elders and the dean also faded away. Everyone's vision was placed on the Devil Class. Devil Class's students were indeed in a sorry state as they screamed miserably. But as far as the eye could see, not a single one of the 10 Devil Class students had been hit by the attacks from Low Profound Class 2. None of the students were hurt. On the other hand, the students of Low Profound Class 2 were bursting with confidence, constantly chasing and releasing their profound qi. Gradually he was exhausted. He also realized that he had used up too much Xianxia. A few of the students from Low Profound Class 2 kept the Xianxia in their palms and blindly chased after the Devil Class students. Several times, they had already caught a Devil Class student who was running around randomly. They were about to defeat him with one palm strike. But inexplicably they were collided with by another student. The cycle repeated. Chapter 11-18. A few Low Profound Class 2 students ran until they were out of breath. Don't think that it was just the time it took to burn a stick of incense. But following the Devil Class students, they ran all over the arena. It was even more tiring than running 5 laps around the Heavenly Academy's public square. While running, they constantly circulated the power of their profound jade heart and released their profound qi in an attempt to restrain the devil class students. In this way, they had already overdrawn their physical strength. A low profound class 2 student stopped to rest. Following that, some students also stopped to rest. And some directly fell to the ground, panting heavily. Anyway, these devil class students were not able to stir up any waves. Other than being able to run, they had no other advantages. Let the other students catch up to the devil class students first. A few of the low profound class 2 students had the same thought. Immediately, no one stood up. On the arena, there was such a situation. 10 low profound class 2 students, 2 were sitting on the ground, 1 was lying on the ground, and 1 was panting heavily with both hands on his knees. The other 6 students took heavy steps as they chased, panting and shouting, "Outflank! Outflank them! Outflank!" How could it be easy? The devil class students ran in all directions without any order. They had no way of determining which direction the 10 students from devil class were running towards. The arena was circular. No matter how they tried to outflank them, the devil class students would always have a chance to escape from their encirclement. The scene on the arena was comical. Below the arena, there was an uproar and laughter. What exactly are the devil class students trying to do? Instead of running away, they might as well surrender. That's right, it's so embarrassing. Other than running, they only know how to run. It's simply a waste of everyone's time. Devil class students participating in the inter-class competition, it's a joke. Now that I've seen it, it's really a joke. The entire arena was filled with ridicule of the devil class's pathetic state. There were also people who clicked their tongues and said in astonishment, "But, to be honest, the devil class students are too good at running." They ran on the arena for the time it took to burn a stick of incense. They could still continue to run and scream in high spirits. This energy, compared to the panting low profound class 2 students, they were indeed too good at running. It was quickly drowned out by the mocking laughter. The students of the devil class are all a bunch of trash. Of course they have to be able to run, otherwise if they meet with danger, wouldn't they just die a violent death? I heard that at the back mountain of the dormitory yesterday, the devil class students were chased by more than 10 low-leveled magical beasts all over the mountain. Since they can run so fast, they must have been chased out. The ear-piercing mocking laughter rose and fell. However, in the area where they were waiting for the devil class, the dozens of youths did not seem to be able to hear the jeers around them. Their gazes were fixed on the arena without blinking. Looking at the tracks and movements of those 10 people, Xianxia felt a chill run down his spine. At this moment, the dozens of youths heard their class monitor's cold and indifferent voice say, "Now." The youths straightened their backs, widened their eyes, and watched even more seriously. In the arena, those devil class students who were originally running away suddenly stopped in their tracks at the same time. The 10 students looked at each other. As if by prior agreement, they rushed towards the low profound class 2 student who was chasing behind them. The few low profound class 2 students who were chasing did not expect that the devil class students would suddenly counterattack. Before he could react, Chapter 11:19. The position was coincidentally beside the few students who were resting on the ground. Among the devil class students, one of them shouted in a hoarse voice, "Beat them up! Beat them to death!" Just as he finished his sentence, 10 devil class students, all rushed towards the low profound class 2 students who were lying on the ground. One by one, the students raised their fists and madly punched the low profound class 2 students. Tearing, pulling, waving their fists. That was called messy. That was called crazy. The crowd, cursing in their hearts, black lines on their foreheads, cold sweat all over. One by one they were speechless. The clamor, the ridicule were all stuck in their throats. This is too bad, isn't it? The scene, why did it look a little like a group of 5-year-old kids fighting over toys on the streets? The low profound class 2 students were suffering unspeakably, crying out in pain. They wanted to struggle but did not even have the strength to stand up. They wanted to use their profound qi to force the devil class students to retreat. Before they could even take a breath, the devil class students' fists had already landed. After enduring for a full cup of tea's time, the low profound class 2 students finally could not endure this inhumane torture. They struggled in pain and shouted, "Concede! until Yun Duan rang the gong to announce the end of the first duel, announcing the devil class's victory. The devil class students then let go of the low profound class students. 1. The devil class students got a good start. Obtained the first victory. Unbelievable. There was no way to believe this was the truth. The devil class students actually defeated the low profound class 2 students. Although the method was a little despicable, a little clumsy, but at least they won. And even forced the low profound class 2 to admit defeat. How is this a competition? The class monitor of low profound class 2's face was ashen. He stood up and said angrily. Looking at the countless mocking gazes around, the class monitor of low profound class 2 only felt his face burning. They actually lost to a waste class? Lost to a bunch of waste? And in front of all the powerhouses, all the representatives of the major academies, they were tortured to such a tragic state by a bunch of waste. As students of low profound class 2, how were they going to survive in the Nirvana realm in the future? No matter where they went, they would be discussed by all the powerhouses. This would forever be their black history. Dean, we are not satisfied. This is not a competition at all. They cheated. The other students of low profound class 2 immediately stood up and echoed their class leader's words. And Pan wiped her sweat, slowly stood up from the ground. A pair of beautiful eyes looked in the direction of low profound class 2, and smiled coquettishly. All is fair in war, understand? Dan Baishi nodded. On the battlefield, it's not only about absolute strength but also brains. Your IQ is too low and you blame us? The devil class students raised their eyebrows. The low profound class 2 student almost rushed into the ring. Low is there a rule that forbids running and ganging up? And Pan could not help but laugh. If you can't win, run. That's the smart choice. Don't tell me that you, low profound class 2, are just going to stand there and let the opponent beat you. Her tone changed and she covered her mouth as she chuckled. I'm so sorry, standing there and letting the opponent hit us is the behavior of a fool. You people from low profound class 2 like to be fools, but we are not. Chapter 11:20. The students of low profound class 2 were completely disgraced. They could not accept their loss in this match. Not only because they lost to the devil class. The main reason was, they could not accept the method used by the devil class. Looking at the students of low profound class 2, they were furious, as though they wanted to rush up to the stage and tear them apart. And Pan snorted. Why? Sore losers. Who are you calling sore losers? You guys use such a despicable method. Even if you win, it's not glorious. The students of low profound class 2 immediately retorted. We are wise, not boorish people. Tong Ziqing, who was in the devil class's waiting area, said coldly, after losing the match, look for your own reasons. Blindly blaming others, it will make our devil class look down on the bearing of your low profound class 2. The low profound class 2 students were so deflated by this sentence that they couldn't say a word. Instantly their faces turned red as they gritted their teeth and stared at the devil class. Seeing that the situation had calmed down, Yun Duan then slowly said, just like what devil class said, the competition not only relies on strength but also brains. Although devil class's first match was indeed an unfair win, but it also shows that devil class students have extremely meticulous observation skills. This is something that everyone should learn from. He did not say anything previously because he specially left the matter to the students to settle themselves. If their higher-ups made a move, even if they suppressed the students of low profound class 2, low profound class 2 would not be convinced. It would be better for devil class to personally let low profound class 2 be convinced. The first round of drawing lots, devil class wins, advanced to the next round. Yun Duan continued to announce. On the side of devil class, the students immediately cheered, whistled and shouted the names of the 10 people on the stage. The 10 devil class students were originally in high spirits, looking as though they could fight with low profound class 2 for 300 rounds. After hearing the announcement, one by one their legs went limp and fell on the stage. It was as though they had accumulated too much energy, and after a moment of relaxation, they lost all their strength. Yun Duan urged them for a long time before these 10 devil class students supported each other, and with weak legs, they walked down the stage. The second round of the competition began. The second round of the competition was a standard profound qi and martial arts competition. It was on a completely different level from the farce of the children just now. The spectators were still discussing about devil class's victory. At this moment, all of their attention was focused on the arena. Seeing that the situation had finally stabilized in the inter-class competition. The few elders sitting on the main seats all heaved a sigh of relief. Yun Xiang subconsciously looked at the 4 elders who came from the headquarters not far away. One of the elders exclaimed, "Devil class's students actually got a good start. It's out of my expectations. I couldn't tell that this class, which was known as trash in the Heavenly Academy, would be so resourceful." An elder nodded his head, his tone was full of praise. After all, the Heavenly Academy has been selected as the best academy for the past few years. Ordinary people would not be able to pass the admission assessment to enter the Heavenly Academy. In the Heavenly Academy they are known as the trash class, but walking on the path of Nirvana realm, those students are not ordinary people. These words received the approval of the other elders. Listening to the praises from the elders of the General Institute, Yun Xiang's expression turned ugly. He glanced at the dean and was about to speak. Chapter 11:21. His tone was indescribably kind and amiable. It was filled with the indulgence and helplessness of an elder. Yun Xiang was stunned. What was wrong with his director? He actually praised the devil class, praised Yiqing Luo? Wasn't the director especially vigilant against Yiqing Luo and hated her existence? How could it be? The next moment, the director looked towards the direction of the main elder. "Supreme Mo has been teaching in the devil class for nearly 2 months. What do you think of student Ye's aptitude?" Yun Xiang was stunned. Then he understood. The director purposely praised Yiqing Luo, but it was because of Yiqing Luo's topic, to strike up a conversation with the main elder. Heavenly Academy's inter-class competition this time round had so many accidents. In front of other powerhouses and other academies' representatives, they had already lost the prestige of being the best academy, the first academy. This time round's best academy selection evaluation. Heavenly Academy no longer had the same confidence as in previous years. In order to get the best academy, they had to please the main academy's elders. When the 4 main elders heard that, they looked towards the direction of the director. Supreme Mo, who was sitting on the rightmost side, had a calm expression, without any fluctuation in his emotions. Hearing the director's question, he glanced sideways and replied indifferently, "Arrogant, presumptuous, don't know how to restrain yourself." The director's smile froze. Had he bootlicked the wrong person? Supreme Mo insisted on teaching in the devil class. It was obvious that he had a special relationship with Yiqing Luo. How could he give such an evaluation in front of the other elders? It's rare to hear Supreme Mo evaluating a student. Looks like this student Yi has given Supreme Mo a huge headache. One of the main elders stroked his white beard as he said. Supreme Mo retracted his gaze indifferently as his eyes fixed on the arena. Without enough ability, she always likes to charge into dangerous situations, causing the people around her to run around with her. Speaking to this point, he paused for a moment as his tone revealed a sliver of disdain. Teaching a class of students, using this kind of opportunistic method to obtain victory, isn't glorious. He could tell that Supreme Mo had a deep opinion towards Yiqing Luo. Faintly there was some disgust. The director instantly felt awkward. Earlier, in order to please Supreme Mo, he praised Yiqing Luo, but now he was slapped hard on his face by Supreme Mo. For a moment he didn't know what to say. The elder who was sitting beside Supreme Mo smiled and shook his head. Supreme Mo's words are wrong. There's a saying in devil class that's right: if they can't win, then run. If they can run, then that's their ability. This can only mean that on normal days, low profound class 2 doesn't have the corresponding training for their own body qualities. On the contrary, he felt that this piece of trash that everyone looked down on was from the devil class. That was interesting. Another head institute elder smiled and said, "This move is indeed a little despicable, but on the battlefield the process isn't important. What's important is the result. Devil class didn't cheat, didn't rely on external forces. Just based on their own outstanding physique and with a little bit of cleverness, it's not too much. The dean wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and laughed dryly. He could not understand the sudden change in Supreme Mo. The dean simply shut his mouth and did not speak again. Everyone's attention was once again focused on the arena. The second match was between Intermediate Profound Class 2 and High Profound Class 1. The students of these two classes were not too far apart in strength. There were quite a number of students in Intermediate Profound Class 2 who had the innate talent to enter the High Profound class. As long as they performed outstandingly in the inter-class competition this time, they would be able to win. Chapter 11:22. This was also the reason why countless students were trying their best to win in this inter-class competition. Everyone wanted to go to the next level. To stand at the peak. It was as if, with great difficulty, he had broken through from the mystic profound realm to become a high-level earth profound realm profound practitioner. They would immediately want to advance and set their goal on the sky mystic realm and above. To become a sky mystic realm expert. And after reaching the sky mystic realm expert, they would want to advance to a higher mystic rank. Everyone was like this. Forever greedy. The students of High Profound Class 1 and Intermediate Profound Class 2 were locked in this battle. No one was willing to admit defeat. Once Intermediate Class 2 won, they could possibly replace High Profound Class 1. Once High Profound Class 1 lost, they could be demoted to Intermediate Class. Both sides had their own things that they insisted on, and the battle was extremely exciting. The onlookers were already boiling with excitement. Many forces had already started discussing the 20 students on the stage, each of their profound rank, strength, identity and so on. They had the idea of roping in their own forces. Which class do you think will win? Evenly matched, I really can't tell. The Heavenly Academy is indeed the Heavenly Academy. These children are only 17 or 18 years old, but their fighting strength is so strong. Someone lamented and attracted countless people to echo. The battle between the high class was a real fist and foot fight, competing on the strength of both sides. Look, the most eye-catching student, that beautiful little girl from Intermediate Class 2. Someone pointed to the stage, the girl who was still releasing profound chi and accurately landed on the opponent. That female student was indeed the most eye-catching existence on the stage. This battle had been going on for at least the time it took to burn a stick of incense. Both sides were evenly matched and both had injuries on their bodies. But that female student seemed to have never participated in it. Her uniform was neat, her hair was neat, and there was no trace of disheveled mess on her body. But everyone could see it clearly. That female student was the real main force of Intermediate Class 2. She had been restraining High Profound Class 1 and had no room to fight back. The other Low Profound Class 2 students took the opportunity to attack High Profound Class 1. That is Xianxia family's fifth miss. Xianxia? The Xianxia family. Isn't that young lady? One of the four great profounder clans, the Xianxia clan. Many forces and academies representatives naturally had some understanding of the Xianxia clan. The fifth miss of the Xianxia family, Xianxia Liuli's good name, was naturally clear about it. Unruly, willful and brainless. His talent was not bad, but he had been spoiled since he was young and his brain had been spoiled. She relied on her status as the fifth miss of the Xianxia family to form cliques and bully the children who disobeyed her. She also relied on her talent to stir up trouble. The children of many forces present had suffered at Xianxia Liuli's hands. Looking at Xianxia Liuli, who was the main force and had not let herself suffer any injuries, everyone fell silent. As expected of the miss of the Xianxia family. She has already stepped into the profound earth realm at such a young age. Too powerful. The four great profounder clans really do deserve their reputations. He's too powerful. Even I wouldn't be able to gain the upper hand if I were to fight Xianxia Wuxia. Chapter 11:23. Especially when he heard the onlookers praising the Xianxia family. Housekeeper Xianxia's face was smiling like a chrysanthemum. Xianxia Luli naturally heard the crowd's praises. She curled her lips complacently as the profound yin qi in her eyes flowed wantonly. The attacks in her hands were getting sharper and sharper. That's right, it was like this. Everyone bowed down to her strength. Everyone looked up to her like she was a fairy. He was the real genius. She was the existence that could shake countless of people. Dong, a gong was struck. The second match, Intermediate Profound Class 2, wins. The voice in the clouds announced the result word by word with impassioned power. Shock. Full of shock. Astonishment. Full of astonishment. After the result was out, the high profound Class 1 students were completely exhausted and collapsed on the stage. They had tried their best in this battle. But the opponent was too strong. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 cheered and hugged Shangguan Luli excitedly. The other students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 rushed to the stage from the waiting area. They swarmed around Shangguan Lioli and excitedly praised her performance today. All kinds of bootlicking made Shangguan Luli grin from ear to ear. Her vanity was bursting. But Lu Xiaoyu, who was waiting in the waiting area, was clutching her clothes tightly. There wasn't the slightest joy of Intermediate Profound Class 2's victory on her face. On the contrary, it was filled with worry. There was another person standing beside Lu Xiaoyu. His facial features were regular and full of heroic spirit. The green and white uniform made his figure look slender. He looked at Lu Xiaoyu with a smile that didn't look like a smile. Worried about Yiqing Luo? Lu Xiaoyu was still worried when she heard a voice beside her. She screamed in fright and took a few steps back. She heaved a sigh of relief when she saw the face of the person beside her. She stared at him in annoyance. Class Monitor Xia, why do you always like to scare me? This person was the class monitor of Intermediate Profound Class 2 Xian. He was also Yi Fengru's good friend. He was also the one who sent the challenge invitation to Yiqing Luo, inviting the devil class to participate in the inter-class competition. As the class monitor of Intermediate Profound Class 2, I naturally have to show some concern when I see that my own classmate did not reveal any expression of happiness just because the class won. Xie Yan took a few steps closer to Lu Xiaoyu. Student Lu, are you worried about Student Yi, or worried that Intermediate Profound Class 2 and Devil Class will go against each other? Lu Xiaoyu opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. Perhaps both of them were involved. Worried about Yiqing Luo's safety. Worried about the battle between Intermediate Profound Class 2 and Devil Class. What should she do? Do you believe her? Xie Yan saw that she did not speak and did not force her to answer but asked another question. Lu Xiaoyu was stunned and looked at Xie Yan blankly. After a long while he slowly nodded. I do. Yiqing Luo was the first friend she made since she came to the Heavenly Academy. It was Yiqing Luo who had been encouraging her and changing her. She naturally believed in Yiqing Luo. No matter what it was, she believed it. Then believe in her. She will bring her brother back safely. Xie Yan's gaze gradually drifted forward, his voice very soft. Lu Xiaoyu did not know why, but because of Xie Yan's words, her heart firmly sank to the bottom of her heart. Inexplicably, there was a kind of peace of mind, a feeling of unconditional trust in Xie Yan. Because Xie Yan was her class monitor. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 were long used to relying on Xie Yan. As for the battle between Intermediate Profound Class 2 and Devil Class, Xie Yan paused for a moment. Lu Xiaoyu's eyes lit up as she looked hopefully at Xie Yan. Chapter 1124. Xie Yan gazed at the girl in front of him. That pair of clear and beautiful eyes sparkled like luminous pearls, resplendent luster. The curvature of his lips couldn't help but deepen. It was almost subconsciously. He raised his hand and caressed Lu Xiaoyu's head as he gently rubbed it. Student Lu, the interclass competition emphasizes on the interclass competition. Even if I don't arrange for you to go up for today's 10-people team battle, tomorrow's semifinals, or finals, you will eventually face each other. Lu Xiaoyu froze. The warmth of the man's warm palm on her head seemed to pass through her hair and touch her skin. Class monitor he. What was he doing? In front of so many people he actually rubbed her head? If you really treat Student Yi as a friend, then go all out in the battle against Devil Class. This is the most basic respect. Xie Yan saw her looking at him in a daze as he comforted her once again. At this moment, Lu Xiaoyu's mind was filled with whatever interclass competition and whatever Devil Class battle. She blinked her thick and curly eyelashes. He was at a loss. Her watery eyes looked like a startled animal. Xie Yan then realized that his actions had already crossed the line. He immediately retracted his hand. The expression on his face had a sliver of awkwardness. I'm sorry. Xie Yan clenched his palm tightly. The touch of her hair was so soft as if there was something coquettish past his heart. It was soft and soft. He didn't want to let go. Lu Xiaoyu blushed to her ears as she lowered her eyelids and didn't respond. Xie Yan coughed dryly. Anyway, just treat the competition normally. Saying that, he had already walked towards Shangguan Lu Li's direction, leaving Lu Xiaoyu alone at the waiting area, blushing to her ears, not moving a single step for a long time. On the arena, Intermediate Profound Class 2's faces were filled with joy. Devil Class's area. Devil Class students were incomparably calm. For others, Intermediate Profound Class 2 winning against High Profound Class 1 was indeed something unexpected. But Devil Class had long known about it. Shangguan Lu Li had already been controlled by the dark forces. The dark forces would definitely help Shangguan Lu Li to obtain victory in this interclass competition, because of the blood oath that Shangguan Liuli and Yiqing Luo had set. Looks like there's a high possibility that we will have to cross hands with Intermediate Profound Class 2. Qiao Jin narrowed his eyes as he whispered into Long Yunzhan's ears. That's for sure, Long Yunzhan said indifferently. His voice was cold and his eyes were calm. In the first round their Devil Class won. In the second round Intermediate Profound Class 2 won. Third round High Profound Class 2 against Intermediate Class 1. There was no suspense in the third round. High Profound Class 2 will definitely win. In that case, next would be Devil Class, Intermediate Profound Class 2, High Profound Class 2 and Low Profound Class 1. The four classes would draw lots and face each other in pairs. According to the Dark Organization's plan, entering the preliminary round no matter what, they had to squeeze the Devil Class out. Devil Class was also bound to go up against Intermediate Profound Class 2. Qing Luo isn't back yet, could there be an accident? Yan Xiaoyi looked around restlessly. Little Kitty has already told Overlord brother-in-law that big sister has gone to look for brother Yu. There won't be any accidents. Kitty Lee scratched the floor with her little claws. Although she said that, but from her actions, it was obvious that she was worried. Overlord has rushed over? Qiao Jin frowned in puzzlement as he looked towards Senior Mo who was at the main elder's side. Then, Chapter 1125. Right now it's more important for us to regulate our emotions and rest well. Long Yunzhan paused, closed his eyes and said indifferently, the third match won't take too long. The few of them collected their thoughts and tried their best to adjust their emotions. Yiqing Luo had said to wait for her return. She would definitely come back safely. What they needed to do was to guard the Devil Class well before Yiqing Luo returned. In a situation where no one was aware, he had obtained victory. Until Yiqing Luo's return, it was just as Long Yunzhan had said. The battle between High Profound Class 2 and Intermediate Class 1 did not last more than half an incense stick of time. The Intermediate Profound Class 1 was beaten to the point of retreating step by step. They were really unable to resist and raised the white flag to surrender. Just as Long Yunzhan expected. Devil Class, Intermediate Profound Class 2 and High Profound Class 2 entered the next round. In addition to the Low Profound Class 1 who will not participate in the first round of the competition, they will draw lots to determine the winner. Originally, Low Profound Class 1 was just holding on to the idea that at least they would not be the first class to be eliminated and muddle along. Anyway, those who could enter the second round were either High Profound Class 1 or High Profound Class 2. Any random student could send 10 of their Low Profound Class 1 students flying. But when he saw the Devil Class entering the second round, Low Profound Class 1 suddenly felt hope. The goddess of fortune had descended upon them. They were to draw the Devil Class. Their Low Profound Class 1 would be able to enter the third round of the preliminary round. Even if he lost. For Low Profound Class 1 this was also the highest honor. The class leaders of the four classes stood on the stage and began to draw the wooden sticks in Cloud's hand. The Low Profound Class 1 class monitor clenched the wooden stick in his hand, took a deep breath and looked down. The end of the wooden stick was red. Instinctively, he looked at the wooden stick of the High Profound Class 2 class monitor. Blue. The Low Profound Class 1 monitor breathed a sigh of relief. He then looked at the wooden stick in the hands of the Class 2 class monitor. Blue. Blue blue. Then, The class monitor of low profound class 1 could not suppress the ecstasy in his heart. He clenched the wooden skewer that had a red end and looked at Long Yunzhan ecstatically. Indeed, the wooden stick in Long Yunzhan's hand was red. High profound class 2 versus intermediate class 2. Low profound class 1 versus devil class. This was the team for the second round. Next, you will have an hour to discuss your tactics, or to replace the students who will participate in the match. As usual, each class will send out 10 students to fight. Cloudy Cloud announced and dispersed the class leaders on the stage. In this 1 hour, the 4 classes participating in the second round began to discuss countermeasures or select candidates. And the Heavenly Academy took the opportunity to show off the Academy's elegance. For example, the Heavenly Academy's Wu Fuzi, who went on stage to perform martial arts. For example, the instructor would instruct the freshmen on a mock performance. There was also a speech by the dean and so on. Finally, after an hour, the gong for the second match rang. The competition began. The first match, Low Profound Class 1 versus Devil Class. The Low Profound Class 1 directly chose the 10 most talented students who were about to be promoted to the intermediate class. As for the Devil Class, it was still the same recipe, the same taste. Don't tell me these 10 students are the strongest in the Devil Class? Can't be. The performance in the first round. If it's the strongest, then Devil Class is too scary. Why isn't the class monitor of the Devil Class going up? Don't tell me that the class monitor is just an empty shell? The first reaction of anyone who saw Long Yunzhan was, this young man was really handsome. This young man was really cold. Chapter 1126. No, that's not right. If the class monitor of Devil Class was really an expert, he wouldn't have been assigned to Devil Class. Based on the current situation. If Devil Class sent out the best student with the highest profound rank to compete, there was still a 20% chance of defeating Low Profound Class 1. After all, if Devil Class students couldn't win, they could still run. Even if Low Profound Class 1 already knew Devil Class students' tricks. But if they couldn't outrun Devil Class, wouldn't they still fall into their trap? Therefore the crowd was certain. The 10 students sent out by Devil Class were the strongest students in Devil Class. Thinking back to the scene of Devil Class students fighting against Low Profound Class 2. This was the strongest student, Devil Class. Was really worthy of being called a trash class. Yun Duan announced the start of the competition. 2 classes, 10 students from the waiting area walked towards the arena. Low Profound Class 1, the 10 students walked with high spirits. In the Devil Class, the 10 students were lazy and sloppy to the point of being unpresentable. With such a comparison, no matter how one looked at it, this match was like a match between Low Profound Class 1 and the Devil Class. Could it be? Devil Class could still think of other sinister tricks? Both parties stood straight and bowed to each other. The class monitor of Low Profound Class 1 was personally participating in the competition. After seeing the delicate young girl standing opposite him, his expression added some pride. Their Low Profound Class 1 could finally turn over a new leaf in this inter-class competition. Little beauty, don't worry, brother will definitely let you leave this arena without pain. And the battle quickly, I won't hurt you. The Low Profound Class 1 students, upon hearing the class monitor's teasing, all laughed out loud. Disdainful laughter, just like before when Devil Class faced Low Profound Class 2, they were ridiculed. And Pan picked her ears, straightened her frail body, lightly snorted. Then I'm really sorry, sister will definitely let you leave this arena in pain and slowly torture you. Ha, did you hear that? This little beauty said she wants to torture us, haha. The class monitor turned his head, looked at the few students beside him, pointed at Pan and laughed. The Low Profound Class 1 students burst into laughter. One by one they held their stomachs and laughed so hard that they couldn't stand straight. Trash from the trash class, you can't even use ordinary mystical energy attacks, yet you still want to participate in the inter-class competition. You even said that you want to torture us? Little beauty, don't say that we don't know how to be tender towards you. We promise that we will love you dearly. As they spoke, the words coming out of the Low Profound Class 1 students' mouths became extremely vulgar. Around the stage there were spirit formation masters sent by the General Institute. They had set up a spirit formation to prevent the students from losing control and injuring the spectators. Their voices were not low. The onlookers could not hear it clearly. All he knew was that the two classes were exchanging harsh words with each other. However, the dean and the general hospital could hear it clearly. The low, profound Class 1's filthy words made the dean's brows knit tightly together. Then he looked at the seat of the chief elder. The expressions of the four elders did not change. But the white eyebrows furrowed. They had always been of virtue and prestige, and the people they got to know were those who were gentle and polite in front of them. How could the four elders remain indifferent to the words of low, profound Class 1? The dean could not sit still. Just as he was about to stand up and reprimand the low, profound Class 1's unbearable abuse. However, he heard a scream. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.